Hey, out here at UC Irvine, the Rams training camp is underway. Travis Rodgers and Kirk Morrison. And as promised, we are joined by a Pro Football Hall of Famer, somebody that was a 7-time Pro Bowler, a 4-team All-Pro, retired number 78 Rams legend Jackie Slater. Jackie, it's a pleasure to have you here. Thanks so much.
Delighted to be here.
So,
especially with this guy right here.
Are you sure about that? They just told me that he was you were one of his coaches.
I was one of his coaches for 1 year, and in his prime, this guy was one of the most athletic guys I ever saw play his position.
Oh man,
heck of a leader,
always
too.
great to be with Jackie Slater. But one of the coaches who I used to watch Jackie when he was coaching the offensive line, and he would go up there, and guys would say, "But coach, what about this?" And Jackie would say, "Just block the damn guy."
That's coaching.
Just block him. Just get in
Right?
front of him, right? Just get in front of him. And so, I can kind of lead with that, Jackie, because one of the storylines here about the Rams, obviously we're going to talk Matthew Stafford. We're talking about everything that's going on. But this offensive line is going to have some makeshifts. It's going to be some guys in some new spots. When you look at this offensive line right now, how well will they be able to protect Matthew Stafford with the new guys they have coming in?
That's a very good question. And I always answer that question, Kurt, about any offensive line, actually. Relative, their success is going to hinge on the play calling. Their success is going to hinge on the variety that they're given to do. It's a happy medium between giving guys too much to have to do technically and not giving them enough. If you plan on throwing the ball chucking the ball all over the place, and you expect them to sit and be pocket protectors all day long, you're asking. It's a formula for failure for an offensive lineman, in my opinion. But if you're going to be running a variety of different plays in the run game, you're going to be running counters, outside pitches and tosses back to the weak side, traps, powers, things like that. If you're going to be running all of that and forcing these great defensive ball players to have to read and react to a myriad of different insertions, now throwing the football becomes an easier thing to do. You need to, in my opinion, beat some of the pass rush out of the good pass rushers.
Hall of Famer Jackie Slater joining us here from Rams training camp at UCI. Is there an adjustment period when you get a new quarterback as an offensive lineman? I mean, a lot of these guys have been here a while. They've been familiar with Jared Goff for a year. Now Matt Stafford is here. Or is it just let's all go day one, play one, everybody's on the same page?
Well, it takes some time. And I think if those guys were anywhere near the students of the game that I think they all are, the first thing that they did was they went and they took a look at Matt Stafford's pass. And when I say take a look at his pass, you want to see how many games he actually played. When he was in Detroit, I can't think of too many good, really special offensive linemen that he had. But if you look at the number of games that he played, he didn't miss a lot of games. So if you got the combination of average offensive lineman, which tells me quarterback's going to get hit a lot, and this guy's been taking a pounding and still playing, it says a lot about the toughness of the quarterback. And more than anything else for me, I always wanted my quarterbacks to be tough as opposed to how talented they were. I played with 24 different quarterbacks in the 20 years that I played, and there were some of them that could really spin the ball. But if the protection broke down and anybody got in their lap or in their face, they became worthless. So I want the tough guy that can take the hits and still make the plays.
Who's the toughest one you played with?
That's a good question. I play with a lot of really tough guys, and I play with Vince Ferragamo. I play with the Rams' all-time leading passer, Jim Everett, who was really, really special. You hear him talk about how many draft picks they gave up for this guy, how many draft picks they gave up for that guy. Well, the Rams gave up 2 first-round draft choices for Jim Everett, but they also sent 2 Pro Bowl players along with those 2 picks. And, the numbers speak for themselves. Jim Everett is the Rams' all-time leading passer. So, the list goes on and on. I mean, it's 24 different guys. It's hard to say, but they were all, unique, but not all very tough.
Jackie, how do they keep that button pressed in terms of staying engaged? Because they've had a lot of success. The culture has been set. Every year this team is already primed for the playoffs. So now Matthew Stafford comes in, and now they're expected to go even further than they did a year ago. How do they keep that button pressed for guys who've been around here already, who know what the culture is already built?
Well, I think they start pressing that button when they brought the people in that they brought in to begin building this. And if you think about it, Aaron Donald is not going to change.
Right.
Aaron Donald is going to be an example to every one of these talented young defensive linemen, defensive ball players, offensive ball players that come in here. When you line up in front of Aaron Donald in practice, you have to know that you're going to have to come to work.
Yeah.
And I think that with guys like that and with guys like Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods, I mean, these guys are perfectionists. And as you watch the great ball players go about their craft and do their job, it just kind of it's the expectation. For the average guy, these new guys that are coming to this squad this year, they're watching those men. And they're watching the way they conduct themselves. And I dare say the new coaches that are coming to this team are watching the coach. They're watching the guys who's been here. They're watching how they motivate their players, the success they have, the tempo in which they're going. And it just, hey, you either catch the fever or eventually you're gonna get out. So that's what makes it so. That's what makes winning and consistent, great practice efforts. That's what makes them, consistent in an organization. Is you're seeing people do it all the time, every day.
Jackie Slater joining us here. Jackie, you are in the Hall of Fame. Aaron Donald will join you at some point when he's done playing. He's more often than not inside than outside, and you're a tackle, so you were more on the edge. Aaron Donald goes out there every once in a while. How would you have tried to block him?
Well, I tease people all the time, and I said, I don't know if I could have blocked it. I don't know if
I like your chances. I think you might have done all right.
I don't know if I could have blocked Aaron Donald, to be honest with you. But, I really liked what Brandon Staley did a year ago. I'm looking forward to seeing what the defensive coordinator this year does. What Brandon Staley did was he systematically moved Aaron Donald around. So now you can't get a bead on him. You can't say, well, he's going to do this and he's going to do that because he did this before and he did that the last time. You can't do that if you're seeing him every other play. And that's the thing about a special ball player like that. And I remember, you might remember Reggie White.
Sure.
Reggie White, Howie Long even. They never let these guys sit in one spot all day long. Because whenever they did, the guys figured them out and neutralized them for the ball game. So I think the key for the special ball players is like Aaron Donald and a couple of other guys on the team is to move them around, put them in different things, ask them to do different things so guys don't get comfortable with them. I hope I answered your question okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Jackie, I think where you played in the Big A, L.A. Coliseum, just think about where the Rams have played at before. Now they enter SoFi last year, no fans. But finally being able to have fans this year, for a guy who was part of that fraternity, that alumni, to see fans this year, what will that bring back memories for you?
Well, for me, listen, man, I played in Southern California for 20 years. And you either win or you go home here. And that's not only as a team, but that's as individuals. You have to be in a habit of winning consistently at whatever they ask you to do in this organization. Now, for me, there was nothing more energizing than going through the tunnels at the Coliseum and at Anaheim Stadium for the 15 years that I played there, and then even the one game that I played in St. Louis, is hearing people who are pulling for you. They're calling your name because they know your job is important, regardless of what it is, and they're encouraging you that way. So I think for the players, the game in itself, the competitiveness of the game encourages a lot of guys to turn it up. But there ain't nothing like having 50,000, 80,000 people screaming for you, and you're representing them every single snap. It's a huge motivation.
Is it different, Jackie, when you come into a season like the one that the Rams are coming into right now, where there are Super Bowl expectations? Not just, hey, let's see what we are. We're on a team that's building, or if everything goes well, we might make the playoffs. But this is a team that has legitimate Super Bowl expectations. Even at this early stage, we're talking the very beginning of August. Is there a different vibe in the air?
Well, there's a different intensity. Intensity. Now, the interesting thing about that, and what you don't want to see, is a couple of really serious injuries early along the way that dampens morale.
Mm-hmm.
I think the backbone of the players that I've seen in this organization, as I've been observing them over the last few years, they're competitive, they're winners, and they work hard, because I think the coach kind of demands that. And the leadership of the team, guys like Whitworth, they demand that. So I think that you have to be a football team that's from the very top, motivates players for excellence, and I think they've done that. So it's just a matter of guys like Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald and Whitworth and Havenstein doing their job, kicking it up a notch or two, and then all the young guys following.
You mentioned Whitworth, but I kind of put his career right. Not necessarily the accolades of your career, but you guys played for a really, really long time. How does he manage through a season like this?
Well, I mean, first of all, Andrew Whitworth is getting ready to be 40 years old, and he's going into his 16th season.
16th season, yeah.
I was 40 years old and in my 20th. So, I mean, it's very difficult to do what he's doing.
Right.
Well, and I really shouldn't say that. Let me take that back. I can't say it's very difficult to do what he's doing because, you know, he doesn't have any pads on right now. As I just watched the last
You know, with pads every day.
I mean,
He's not hard to, even without the pads, he's not hard to find.
I really would like to think that if I had been treated like that in the later part of my career, that I might have been able to squeeze out a couple more. But in all honesty, when I look back on it and I look at what the Players Association and the league has decided practices, I don't think I could have played as long if I hadn't been allowed to practice the way I wanted to play as often as I was allowed to do it. I practiced at the level that I wanted to play at in practice week in and week out.
From the first day to the last day.
We used to play 6 preseason games.
6 preseason.
Oh, my
and
goodness.
I was always one of the younger guys my first part of my career, so I played as much as any starter. And so when I got to that was a great play by
Jalen
There
Ramsey.
he goes.
Wow.
that was a great play.
He telegraphed it. Jalen Ramsey saw
That ball was
before
behind,
the play even started.
and the ball
he
was behind
running
him.
up. Yeah.
Ball was behind the receiver a little bit, don't you think?
It was behind the receiver, but Jalen Ramsey before the snap, he was committed to doing that.
Oh, he was?
He was committed to just jumping that route regardless. That was one where if he gets beat, he just said, "I'll take that one." But I gotta go steal this one.
Yeah, well,
He did.
He jumped.
Yeah.
He jumped. That was a beautiful play.
Jackie Slater, he is a Hall of Famer. Jackie, appreciate you so much for stopping by. Thank you so
Glad
much.
I could stop by, guys. Good seeing you, Kirk.
You
Always.
got it. All right.
All right, bye-bye, guys.
So we're here at UC Irvine for Rams training camp. Jalen Ramsey just stepped in front of a Matthew Stafford pass and went, what was that, Kirk, maybe 90 yards the other way for
90 yards,
a touchdown. So I guess that's good news for Jalen Ramsey and maybe a little less good news for Matthew Stafford. We'll talk more about that defense when we come back. Jackie mentioned a second ago, new defensive coordinator Raheem Morris. What's that going to look like? That's coming up next. We are here live from Rams training camp at UCI on 710 ESPN.
game off, take a play off. 20 seasons, that is a long time.
At left tackle.
I mean, that's the reason why he's in the Hall of Fame. And look, it was a lot more strenuous back then. They had 6 preseason games. They played, they didn't even have an
I'll be honest, Kirk. I didn't know that was ever. I knew about two-a-days. I knew about full pads and all that. Like, I knew that training camp was a much more. It was a different beast a million years ago. I had no idea that there was a period of time where they played 6 preseasons. That seems insane.
And it was real. Like, it was 6 preseason games that were like really all out. And then you get to the regular season, and it was a totally different mindset you have to have. Then you go into the postseason, so guys will be beat up by the time they got there. But that's the way the game was played. And you really think about it, too. Like, now you go from 6 to now you'll have 3. 3 preseason games. Now we add another game this year, so it'll be 17 games over 18 weeks. But, yes, this is going to be a different season altogether. But to think about where it came from before, and we were just talking about it. Remember off-season, guys had regular jobs.
Yeah, they'd sell suits or hardware in the off-season.
Hardware, work at a hardware store,
right.
and then all of a sudden, they show up to training camp, and they go through a month-and-a-half-long training camp.
To get in shape.
Games. Yes.
Right. I mean, it's so different, and you look at the way that it's constructed now, and you mentioned 3 preseason games this year. Let me ask you this, and this is a little bit of a leap.
Okay.
Do we have 3 preseason games in the NFL because of Sean McVay? Because remember that he was the first one a couple of years ago. Guys, not only am I not going to play my guys in the first game or the fourth game, I'm not playing them at all. Right. You're not going to see any of the guys that matter. We're going to hit the ground in game 1 with all our guys. It's not worth it to me to have 4 preseason games with any time. That I wonder if that didn't accelerate the point where the league said, look, if no one's going to play in these games, what's the point of having them? Let's at least peel one of them back.
Well, it was always the concession with the NFL and the NFLPA is that we're going to play 20 games. Now, however you want to split that pie up, there's going to be 20 games.
Yeah.
Whether it's 4 preseason, 16 regular season, or we'll go 17 regular season and 3 preseason. There was always going to be 20 games.
Do you like the idea of 17? Do you think that it changes much as far as strategy goes or injury prevention or anything like that? Is there any discernible difference?
No, not really. I think for me, it's one extra game. 9 and 8 is mediocre. I mean, you literally think about it. You win 7 games, you're 7 and 10.
Well,
I'm sorry. You can win 8 games and be under 500. That's what I'm saying. Like 8 games is like, okay, you're not bad, okay, but you're not very good either. You're right there in the middle. You have to win 9 games to be above average in the NFL, to be above 500, or to feel like, okay, we didn't make the playoffs, but we feel good that we had a winning season. And so for me, I just want to see what happens because you know how it is down the stretch. We'll get that last 5 games, and here's the playoff breakdown, and this team needs to do this, and that. And so I won't know the percentage points is going to be bad. And then think about the team that has 9 away games this year, 8 home games.
Yeah,
it'll flip-flop the next year. They'll get their 9 home games.
Like the Rams have 9 roads this year. The Baltimore game got added,
And then next year they'll get they'll get it back. 9 home games. They'll get it back, but you're going to have to look at your body differently because we're talking about true January football. That's not playoff football.
Yeah.
So how do you pace yourself throughout the season? I thought the NFL made one of the great rules last year of being able to have unlimited guys on IR to where they just have to sit out for 3 weeks and they can come right back.
Yeah.
Because there are some guys who have ailments throughout the season. They need 3 weeks to recover instead of keeping them on an active roster.
Right.
And because you can't put them on IR because they won't come back. So you have a lot of that thing always, something that you have to think about. And now you can actually stash guys, which is a good thing for the Rams because this season, it's all about, for me, it's about the depth. It's about having guys in the back end. And people are going to say, well, they lost this guy, they lost this guy. A lot of the players that the Rams lost this offseason were actually the depth guys who pushed their way forward to being starters.
Yes.
No one talks about how they developed these players and put them in a position that they were in a year ago. That's why I think it's a lot different than in years past, is that they do have depth in some areas.
Kirk, you can almost guarantee that there's somebody out here right now whose name we're not going to say today.
Correct.
Who's going to be an important part of what they do by the time that season comes around.
Absolutely. Every year.
There always are. That we know, look, Aaron Donald's got to play well. Matt Stafford's got to play well. Robert Woods. We know the guys that are going to – Andrew Whitworth. We know them, right?
Right.
But it's those other guys that are going to be, hey, I'm the fifth corner, that all of a sudden, hey, I got to start today, that'll have an interception or a big pass breakup or something that happens in those moments. And that is the thing that I think the Rams have done as well as anybody else under Sean McVay, is that all of a sudden a guy gets thrown into a situation that maybe isn't a star, that maybe wasn't a highly drafted player or a player that was drafted at all, and all of a sudden they show up and they play, and they're perfectly fine. They do their job. Right. That it isn't, okay, that's the soft spot, attack. They always seem to have those pieces covered.
Well, they're role players who know their role, right? Like, my role on this team is to be able to do this. My position is this right here. When I'm called upon, I just execute and do my job. And sometimes it's just a routine play, but it's because of the moment that they do the routine play, it's magnified. And we've seen that throughout times where a guy makes a crucial third down catch, right? Remember Van Jefferson last year. You know, he was a role guy, and he made a couple big catches down the stretch.
No doubt.
Obviously, Jordan Fuller was a guy who started to make those plays.
He's going to play a huge role this year.
But I think you can even look at a couple guys who are gone this year, right? You know, Morgan Fox was a guy last year who would come in and make a play. You're like, wow, okay, he's got, 4 or 5 sacks this year. You know, but they played their role because they understood what their role was. Everybody on this team just wants to know, where do I sit, what do I need to do, and then be at the best when your best is needed, right?
That's the line, right? I like be at your best when your best is needed, but it's second to the standard is the standard. That's still the number one for me in the Sean McVayisms. All right, the voice of the Rams, JB Long, is going to join us next from here. UC Irvine Rams training camp on ESPN 710.
Hi, this is Sean McVay of your LA Rams. The Rams play here.
We are live. Camp on 710 ESPN. Driven by your Southern California
Go concept, so we're running scout routes.
And now Sean McVay's offense is retooled with a new quarterback.
Hi, this is Matthew Stafford of your Los Angeles Rams. It's time for Rams training camp.
And the fearsome Rams defense is ready to do it all over again this season. With number 99 at the helm.
He's in trouble. He's wrapped up and sacked at the one by Aaron Donald. His first full playoff sack.
This is the Rams training camp special. Live from UC Irvine with Travis Rodgers and Kirk Morrison.
We are live from Rams training camp on 710 ESPN. Driven by your Southern California Hyundai dealers. Get the Hyundai you've always wanted. It's your journey. Own it.
Let's do it now from UC Irvine.
Here's
Up and on.
This is how I know it is football season. When Kirk and I are out at UC Irvine and we have our first conversation with the voice of the Rams, JB Long. JB, this is how I know it is the beginning of a long, awesome season when we get our first conversation with you.
Well, I don't go out on New Year's Eve much anymore, but I might go out tonight because to me this is the exact same feeling. Happy New Year to you both. It's great to see you here.
Yeah, it really does feel like we're doing it all over because last year was just such a different year for everybody. We didn't get to experience any of this stuff. I would imagine, you're around the team. I would imagine for everybody in the organization, it feels like here we go again for real all over again.
I was saying something similar to Jalen Ramsey the other day when he was on stage with us because in my mind, he's going into year 3 with the Rams. It's like 2.5 since he joined the franchise mid-2019 via a trade with Jacksonville. But it dawned on me late in the game that this is the first time he's been in front of this audience. Right. Here at UC Irvine and training in front of the most loyal of Rams fans. So that was a cool moment, and like you kind of alluded to there, I think all of us, me especially, we have a new profound appreciation for what this is, which is glorified football practice and shorts and helmets.
Still fun.
But when you feel the energy out there today, and you can't tell me that Jalen Ramsey and Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods and several others that I could name drop right now don't feel that vibe too.
Yeah, the competition, you can see it each and every time they're on the field. But, JB, what's the atmosphere in terms of just this team as they get ready to embark on this season, knowing that they've had so much success under Sean McVay? Now they get into year 5. Obviously, the new quarterback comes in, but still, the message to these guys is what?
Well, here's what I think is intriguing is Sean just put together one of the better 4-year stints in modern NFL coaching history. I mean, if he had cashed in that Super Bowl, I could have said that in an even more emphatic fashion. Point is, 4 winning seasons, 3 trips to the playoffs, an NFC championship game, a coach of the year, all these accolades. And for some, that's not enough.
That's great.
Welcome to L.A.
But fortunately, Sean is one of those people for whom that is not enough.
Right.
But I think if he was having an honest moment, would have said and admitted that at this juncture of his early coaching career, he really could have used something to jumpstart it. And I think the trade for Matthew Stafford is exactly that. I find it annoying personally when he uses a line like he feels 30 years young again because that's only rewinding the calendar about 4 years.
Right.
So that's super annoying of him to make a joke like that. But I get it. I get what he's saying. He is a rookie in terms of his exuberance coming into this season. And let's face it, the Rams upgraded at the most important position in sports, we believe, this offseason. And right behind that, who can impact an NFL game more or as much as a quarterback? The head coach. That's it. It's a list of 1.5, maybe 2 people, and I think the Rams are better at both of those spots. Quarterback, yes, and even though it's the same man, the head coach, too, coming into this year.
JB Long is the voice of the Rams, and let me be the first person to ask you, I'm sure, JB, about Matthew Stafford and him joining the Rams here. Yeah. We spent so much time the last season in particular, but really over the last couple of seasons talking about, hey, Jared Goff doesn't seem to be progressing. Jared Goff is this, and Jared Goff is that. They make the move, Matt Stafford comes in. Does this fix all of these problems? Or are those conversations that we had for a couple of seasons in the rearview mirror?
Surely it's not that simple, but I do think there's plenty of reason for optimism. And it's amazing to run all of these thought experiments in real time. This does not happen. I don't want to say in professional sports. You guys can speak to that better than I can. But this doesn't happen in professional football where you can say, okay, if you thought Jared Goff was a system quarterback and a product of Sean McVay's assistants, we'll find out. We'll know by October whether or not he's a bona fide NFL starter outside of this ecosystem. If you feel like Matthew Stafford was a very good quarterback, maybe even an elite quarterback, who was victimized by his circumstances and a lackluster franchise in Detroit, Okay, now plug him in here and see what changes. And similarly, I think those of us close to the product these last few years would say that the Rams have become very limited, boxed in offensively in terms of what they were able to do relative to where they wanted to be. And if your season finishes in Green Bay with Matt LaFleur running as close to the same playbook as you're going to get with Aaron Rodgers having an MVP season and doing it as well as maybe it's ever been done, then yeah, I think you can then project, all right, let's see what it looks like if Sean McVay gets his chance with someone with a skill set like Aaron Rodgers. I'm not saying he's played worthy of MVP status yet, but when I see him make a no-look pass in the red zone here in the goal line and a touchdown to Darrell Henderson, look, the list of quarterbacks who are confident and able to make that throw, be it here in training camp or on a game day Sunday, it's a pretty short one, and it includes the MVPs that we think of as being the top of the game right now, namely Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, you mentioned the name Darrell Henderson, who actually was 1 yard shy of leading the Rams in rushing last year. He had 5 rushing touchdowns, JB. Of Cam Akers tears his Achilles. He's out for the season. And everybody's saying, should the Rams will get somebody in free agency? Is Darrell Henderson truly the lead guy now? Where do the Rams sit in terms of their running back situation right now? And could we see them add someone at some point this training camp?
Well, today's the last day of July, right? I think that's a question probably more for the last day of next month because there are plenty of options in that category right now, and there only figured to be more of them, as well as, other developmental prospects that maybe they liked in their scouting evaluation process, come cut down time. I would be shocked if the Rams go through this season with only the portfolio of running backs that are here with them in Irvine. And I say that because, yes, they lost Akers, and I think it's a numbers game as much as anything. You're also entering the first 17-game NFL regular season with designs to play well beyond that for an 18th, 19th, hopefully 20th game. And it just doesn't stand to reason that Darrell Henderson, who's never put together a full NFL season, atop that backfield is going to be enough with the unproven prospects behind him, though I know many of them have the potential to succeed in this offense.
JB Long, the voice of the Rams, joining us here at UCI Rams training camp. Travis Rodgers and Kirk Morrison. Brandon Staley's now the head coach of the Chargers. Raheem Morris coming in as the defensive coordinator. JB, what will we notice differently? Will there be anything, or are we just going to see Aaron Donald, we're going to see Jalen Ramsey, and that's good enough?
That's a great question. I would say more similar than different, but it's fascinating to watch Sean go about that process of having to replace that position, that role in his franchise 2 years in a row. And I think his challenge last year, or the mandate to him, was go find the next Sean McVay, except find him on defense. And man, did he ever hit a home run in that regard. Brandon Staley fit the bill to perfection. Raheem Morris is more of a familiar name, certainly to Sean. Has both head coaching and defensive coordinating experience, as well as a good taste on offense as well in Atlanta. So I think he has a great view, a 30,000-foot perspective of not just this defense, but of what it means to be in a great system and a great culture. And I think he, too, much like Stafford, gives Sean a healthy jolt of adrenaline and comfort going into this season, having to go through a third consecutive season with a different man running his defense. But if Raheem Morris was wise, and I know that he is, you probably don't fix what isn't broken. And given how much returns to this defense, I know what they lost, but given how much is back at key spots, I think he'll put his fingerprints on it, but leave it largely unchanged.
I'm looking at Jordan Fuller right now wearing number 4, and I'm thinking how good of a rookie season he put together, and thinking about him wearing the green dot in the helmet, taking over from what John Johnson did a year ago, now being the signal caller of this defense in his second year, having been drafted in the 6th round. It, to me, shows how well the Rams draft in later rounds and have the depth that people don't see. They see the frontline guys are gone, but yet the depth always continues to be tested, and now it proves and comes through with a guy like Jordan Fuller.
Well, I know that's one emotion and sentiment you're feeling, but the other one has to be, whatever happened to the middle linebacker in professional football? And why isn't that an every down player to the extent where we can trust the man in the middle of our defense to call our actual defense?
Well, look, because Deion Jones, those guys don't Deion Jones and Devin White, they don't grow on trees.
Yeah.
Meaning that the every down linebacker, they're special guys and usually get them in the top 10. Rams are never going to be drafted in the top 10 to draft a game-changing linebacker, so they have to go in a different way where a guy who does not come off the field. And I'm just impressed that a guy just got it that quickly.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Well, One, I think he walked in the perfect situation in so many ways. Unfortunately, Taylor Rapp was not on the field last training camp, so like it or not, he was thrust into starters reps. And then you look around him, who's on that starting group? Well, Jalen Ramsey and Darius Williams about to have, I think, an all-pro caliber season, and Aaron Donald and a great pass rush in front of him. Leonard Floyd poised for a great season. So I don't mean to diminish what Jordan Fuller did as a rookie, but he had some great circumstance around him, including Brandon Staley in his ear and helping to prepare him for that challenge. This year, I think he does take on more, and it's a familiar role in that we saw John Johnson do it. We saw Eric Weddle do it previously. I think this is now more the norm than the exception moving forward. But ultimately, I think we know who the leaders of that defense are, whether or not they have a green dot on the back of their helmet.
JB, like Kirk mentioned, the Rams haven't had a first-round draft pick in a long time, much less a top 10 pick. But of the players that they did pick, the guy that is most likely to have an impact on this upcoming season is who? Is it Atwell?
Boy, that's really tough to say right now, given the fact that he's 155 pounds and he's not with the team because he's on the COVID-19 list. It hasn't been a great start to his rookie season. Now, that's not to say that he can't overcome it, but when I see Deshaun Jackson get off to a good start, I hope that that Jackson is able to fill that role, whatever they needed from Tutu, until the rookie from Louisville can get up to speed and can maybe take over some of those reps. Mostly, I think he's a complementary piece so that the snap counts for the likes of Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp can come down a little bit this year because let's just never finish another Rams season with Cooper Kupp on the shelf rather than on the field. So to answer your question, if I had to decide today, I would probably go with Jacob Harris because I think he will immediately contribute on special teams as their top special teams target in the draft. There's also a role carved out for him already vacated by Gerald Everett. I think he has a similar skill set and can take over a lot of the same design within the Rams offense. But Robert Rochelle might be another name to watch. He made a quick impression. He has as close to a Jalen Ramsey build at the corner position as I think you can find. He's in a very small subset of players who have measurables like a Derwin James or like a Jalen Ramsey. So whether it's this year by necessity or in very short order thereafter as Darius Williams perhaps enters free agency or what have you, I think he's going to be a very fruitful product from this draft class.
That is the voice of the Rams, JB Long. You will hear him all season long. JB, like you said, it's Happy New Year all over again. Good to hear your voice. Good to talk with you.
Okay, you guys want to know how bad I am at talk radio? I didn't want to leave you empty-handed. You can tackle this whenever you feel like.
Okay.
But here's just a talk radio question that I was kicking around today in my own head. Who's more likely to be a Hall of Famer? Trevor Lawrence or Matthew Stafford when all is said and done?
There you go. That's it.
That's easy, though.
We have Kevin Demoff coming next, and then we're going to tackle the JB. I'm going to need you to send me 3 of these a day. I'm going to need you to go and be like a part-time producer for me on the Travis and Sliwa show. This is very, very useful, JB.
I was happy to fill a segment for you, and I just waned you to to leave with a question to tackle at another time.
To ponder.
Don't tell Kevin I posed that.
No,
I'll save that for another
That's
day.
between us. Kevin Demoff coming up next. We are here at UCI for Rams training camp on 710 ESPN.
home for Rams football.
Up and on.
PM.
Once again, Travis Rodgers and Kirk Morrison.
Back at the field, indeed, we have fans on all four sides out here at UCI, including my man Daniel, who is right over here listening to us do the show. We are here live at UC Irvine for Rams training camp, and as promised, we are joined by the Chief Operating Officer of the Los Angeles Rams, Kevin Demoff. Kevin, good to have you. Thank you so much for stopping by. We need to turn on Kevin's mic real quick here. Kevin's mic is down here. Let's see here. Kevin, try that again for us real quick.
Now
There we
are
go.
you ready?
Now we're ready to be welcomed to UC
This
Irvine.
is live radio, guys. Come on.
That's right. That's how you know it's bad.
That's what training camp's for. You get
Work
a
out
rep,
the kinks.
you go, you fix it,
Yes.
you get it going. So, well, thrilled to have you guys down here at UC Irvine. What a day.
Yeah.
It is such a day. It was one of the first things I said to Kirk, Kevin, was, we've been out here every year since the Rams have returned to Los Angeles, and this time today feels just like a different universe from when it was 5 years ago when the team first came back. The enthusiasm, the passion for the Rams, it feels like it's in full force.
Well, look, I think one of it is the journey over the last 5 years, the memories this team has created. You can look at the Super Bowl run, the Monday night game against the Chiefs. Last year, first year in SoFi, no fans, but going to the playoffs. All of those moments along the way build that fandom, and it brings you to a picture-perfect day today where fans want to come check out, what looks like a pretty good Rams team moving forward for 2021. But a lot of hard work by a lot of people. But the fans, you feel the passion now. You see the Donald jerseys. You see them truly believing this is their team and taking ownership of it.
But the energy, though, Kevin, I'm watching the energy and watching the long lines of fans as they come in and they're excited about football. Just think about where we've come from like 5 seasons ago to right now. You've had new uniforms, new helmets, new stadiums. Is this kind of going to the plan that you first had when the Rams came back to Los Angeles?
Yeah, all minus the Super Bowl ring, right? But no, I think it's a great credit to, first of all, Stan Kroenke when he brought the Rams back. This is what he envisioned. New stadium, crown jewel of the NFL, crown jewel of the world, hosting the Super Bowl. Right? You're opening the season on Sunday Night Football, 5-6 primetime games a year, a team that's among the winningest in the NFL, competing at every level, rock star head coach, great players. You have Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Matthew Stafford. It's a team, that's built every year to go compete, win Super Bowls, but it is great to see the passion that's been ignited in L.A. It's always been a great football market, as you guys know. Yeah. Just needed a team to rally around, and really proud of everybody in the organization for helping build that team that fans feel a piece of.
Rams Chief Operating Officer Kevin Demoff joining us here at UC Irvine Rams training camp. And it's just – I've said this a few times, Kevin, that every time I've had the opportunity to go through SoFi, whether it was during construction or since it's been completed, I leave and I tell everybody, I can't wait for you to see this. I have nothing to do with it. I've just had the opportunity to walk through it a couple times. I can't imagine what it's got to be like for you and everybody else in this organization that did have something to do with it, a chance to show that place off to the people of Los Angeles.
Well, look, I think Los Angeles has waited 100 years for an NFL stadium of their own, right? You go back to the Rose Bowl and the Coliseum being built, and to have truly this unbelievable marvel that it's a long time in the making, but it's what the NFL needed to come back. And what I love about it for our fans when you walk through it is this is the first stadium ever designed by the Rams, for Rams fans, right? And when you first sat down and you looked at how do we build an amazing building that's the best of Los Angeles, an indoor-outdoor environment, I always tell Travis people what you don't realize. Everybody asks me what's my favorite feature of SoFi. It's the feel in there.
Yes.
You are completely covered. It's a beautiful stadium, but the breeze is coming through. Yeah. It's outdoors, but it can host any event in the world. And I said, it feels like California. We're on the 50-yard line. You're looking at palm trees. You've got the best of every amenity in the world, the world's largest stadium, but it also feels intimate at points. It's got the closest seats to anywhere in the field in the NFL. It's truly a marvel from a design factor, but the only thing that's been missing has been the fans to make it a home.
Yeah, and we know, look, a championship on the horizon. I think that's coming, Kevin. But I feel like the championship for the Dodgers, the championship for the Lakers of recent, but I feel like the Rams have brought this aggressive nature of getting the players that they need. And I feel like you've done that to a point where the Dodgers are now attacking the same way their season is with their trade deadline. We're seeing the Lakers do the same thing. watching the Rams go and get a Jalen Ramsey, go and get Matthew Stafford, where does this aggressive nature truly come from? Is it the market? Has it always been there? Because it seems like the Rams now, if they need to upgrade, they're just going to do what they have to do.
Well, look, I think Les has always been aggressive in trades. And, his motto is, wake up sprinting, never be scared. And he does that every day. And, but I even think back, Kirk, to your question, in 2018, we trade for Marcus Peters.
Yes.
We sign Ndamukong Suh.
Yeah.
We trade for Brandon Cooks.
Fowler.
Then the Dodgers go out and trade for Machado that year. The Lakers get LeBron.
Yes.
The Dodgers then follow that up with Mookie Betts. We go, for Stafford and Jalen Ramsey. Every year, I think Jalen Ramsey and Mookie Betts the same year. So, we did Stafford. It felt like, Andrew Friedman's probably sitting there and being like, I got to go match. And then the Lakers go do Westbrook. But look, I think I love that that's become the ethos of this market.
Yes.
Right? This has always been a city from when I was growing up here that was built on stars and Magic Johnson and Wayne Gretzky. When you looked at Fernando Mania and everything, and even down here in Orange County, you've got Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani.
Right.
This is a star market. And I think you have to win. You have to be competitive. You have to be talented or not. You can't sacrifice everything just to win now. But you've got to make sure that your fans, when they wake up and they come to this training camp, they think the Super Bowl is a possibility. And that's where I think where Sean McVay says every team will talk about it right now. You want to be those teams that actually goes to bed believing in it, and I think our fans do.
As an executive of a professional sports team, and especially for all the reasons you just mentioned here in Los Angeles, you got to compete with the 49ers and the Cardinals and the Seahawks in your division. But do you have to compete with the Dodgers and the Lakers and the Clippers and the Angels and everybody else just to get attention here? Because there's two of everything.
I don't view it as competing. I view it as drafting off one of another and using NASCAR, right? Like, we all lift each other up. And one of the things I love about being in this market is you have to be your best as an organization. It requires, the Dodgers are going to be great. The Lakers, Kings, everybody here, there are bits and pieces that are great organizations that you want to learn from and study from. And I think that challenges us as an organization to be the best. Now, we're so fortunate when you have a Stan Kroenke as an owner who can sit there and give you every opportunity to compete on the field, off the field, build a stadium, and change the paradigm for us to go carve out our own niche. But not only are you part of this landscape, you've got to find your own lane as well. And I think SoFi Stadium does that. Sean McVay has done that for us. There are so many different ways I look at us and trying to compete, but I don't view it as competition. We learn a lot from each other. We share trade secrets. We band together. I think you can look back last year to the alliance that was created, all 11 teams coming together, rallying for social justice. So it is a great camaraderie amongst the teams. And, you're fortunate in the sense that we don't all compete against each other on the field. I care far more about beating the 49ers and the Seahawks than I do anybody in the LA market.
Take me back to that the introductory press conference for Sean McVay and thinking that we got our guy. And then you think about it right now, going on the fifth season, like, we got this one right. Like, how do you think about – what do you think about that introductory press conference?
Look, I think you spend 5 minutes with Sean McVay, you want him to be your head coach, right? And that's the way we felt. And you try to look past the age and you try to scan through everything. And I think we met with 12 coaches that year.
Right.
And Sean McVay was so universally our number one. And look, I give credit, for Les Snead, for Tony Pastores, myself, all those who were involved in the interview process. But I remember – vividly, Marshall Falk, when we took him to dinner, it was Marshall Falk, Stan Kroenke, myself, and Sean. And Marshall was, a big believer. You need a veteran head coach. You got a Jared Goff. Like, you need to come in and really light some market on fire. And I said, hey, come just meet the guy.
Right.
And Kirk, obviously, you guys know, San Diego, like, Marshall's one of the brightest football minds
Absolutely.
in the world. And we walk in dinner, and he's like, hey, I'm thrilled to come, but, like, this ain't your guy. We walked out, and he goes, if this isn't your head coach, then, you let me know. And I think that gave us all confidence, though, that what we were seeing was not blinders on. And from day one, he's come in and owned, this franchise and his chance to go do it. And, I saw the other day, I think, top 5 head coaches winning percentage all time. They're first 4 in the Hall of Fame, and Sean's 5th. So good company, a lot to do. I think the great part about it, too, he's 35. He's learning, getting better each year, maturing, and I don't mean that in the sense that he's immature. I mean he's been there, he's done that, he understands how to coach a staff, how to lead the players. This is his 5th time down here at training camp. He understands how to lay it out, and we're so fortunate to have him because it gives you the one thing when you go to sleep at night, you know you have tremendous leadership.
The only negative is that people around the league try to steal from his coaching staff to create the same culture that he's created here. That's my only negative, is that he's been so good in creating the staff that everybody around the NFL wants to create what you guys have created here.
Well, I think that's a great testament to what Sean and Les have done. And what I love about Sean is, his grandfather obviously worked with Bill Walsh. Right. He has the Bill Walsh mentality of, I want to develop these guys into head coaches and help them get those opportunities. And what that brings is you get the next great coach to come fill that spot. And you saw it with Les Snead and Brad Holmes going to Detroit. And, I think we've lost for Sean to have 3 head coaches, and Matt LaFleur and Zach Taylor and now Brandon Staley. And, you think back a year ago to training camp, Brandon Staley was an unknown. Everybody's like, how could you replace Wade Phillips with an unknown Brandon Staley? Now Brandon Staley is a head coach.
Yeah.
And I think when you look at this team, the development, Shane Waldron's an offensive coordinator. Jed Fish is now the head coach at University of Arizona. Liam Cohen now is the offensive coordinator at Kentucky. This is a lab. And I think to build a great franchise, to build a great organization in business, you need great people. Sean attracts those coaches, those people. They want to come here. Les Snead attracts those people from a personnel standpoint. And the fact that people come to us year in and year out for talent, I think, is the best credit to this organization. And I don't ever view it as a negative. I view it as a positive, because you never know who the next great opportunity that's going to walk in your building is.
We are live from Rams training camp, driven by your Southern California Hyundai dealers. Get the Hyundai you've always wanted. It's your journey. Own it. I remember, Kevin, when you guys first hired Sean McVay, and Kirk and I went up to the facility, and a handful of other media members were there, and he kind of explained his philosophy on some things. And I'd never been in a meeting like that before. I'd never seen a head coach talk like that before. And Kirk and I are walking out, and I said to him on the way out, I said, are they all like that? and he goes, no, I have never seen anything like that in my life. In 9 years in the NFL, I remember him telling me that like it was yesterday. I would imagine that you had a similar experience like you explained with, okay, this is going to be our guy. Can you see it on the players' faces too? The new guys who come in, the rookies who come in, maybe free agents or trades or whatever. It's like, oh, okay, I get it now.
Well, look, I think when you add, I think what Sean has done is made this a destination. Obviously, you have L.A., SoFi Stadium, the weather. We have all of that. But Jalen Ramsey wants to be a Los Angeles Ram because of what he hears about Sean McVay. Matthew Stafford, when he says, here are the teams I'm willing to go to, Los Angeles is at the top of his list because of Sean McVay, right? I think that has given us players know and talk in this league. I'm sure Kirk can say this. But when you build, and it's not just the smarts. There are a lot of smart coaches. He's an unbelievable communicator. He's got an unbelievable vision, and he loves building a culture where guys love to come to work, right? It's the mix of all of it, taking care of our players. We've been fortunate. Sean will listen to Reggie Scott, our VP of Sports Medicine, when to back off the guys, when to push. Even yesterday's practice is a great example. After 2 really good days, hey, I'm going to slow it down for you guys just to make sure you get acclimated. I think he's wise beyond his years there. But, yeah, there's still times, when I look at it and say, we are so fortunate, to have done it. And it's a great credit to Sean and what he's built. You could see it. But that doesn't make it happen automatically. There are a lot of smart coaches, a lot of great communicators. We're just fortunate that he's grown each year and given us a stability that we can then blossom from.
As the season opener approaches, when do you turn the phone on Do Not Disturb with people trying to bombard you for tickets?
Oh, I got a bunch of requests today, right? So,
hey, don't leave. I got a question I got to ask you when you walk away.
I think the great part is, we've had such an unbelievable response from our fans to SoFi Stadium. It's going to be an amazing environment. We had the practice there in June. We walked off the field, and there was probably 20, 25,000 people in the building. And Sean said, hey, I think that was louder than any game at the Coliseum with the third full. So I know our entire building is waiting for 70,000 to be in SoFi. When the Bears are under center, making it loud, making it an unbelievable environment. But we've had such a tremendous response to people wanting to be in that building and wanting to come. And I think when you get in, once Labor Day comes, those Bears tickets, that are 4X right now on the secondary market, they're going to be 5 or 6. And, but what I love about it, and I think it gets back to Travis's point, when you look at the secondary market, there are no tickets out right now. And that's because it's our fans who want to be in the building. They take such pride in helping to build SoFi and to build this brand together. And that's what I can't wait to see.
Kevin Demoff is the COO of the Los Angeles Rams. Kevin, thanks so much.
My pleasure, guys. What a great day. I appreciate having you guys and looking forward to a fun ride that hopefully February 13th.
Yes.
We'll all be hanging out in SoFi Stadium again.
That's how
Cannot wait.
I remind my wife that hopefully we're celebrating
We don't have to
together.
take a roadie for the Super Bowl this year. We can stay
Valentine's
right here.
Day is the 14th. We're going to celebrate a Super Bowl and Valentine's Day the
Perfect.
next day. That's what I told her.
Thanks, guys.
I think you need to count on some roses too.
Probably not a bad idea. All right, that's Kevin Demoff. Thanks to him for coming on. Let's talk about a whole bunch of things that he said right there. I think it's such a great point about not just making sure that you have a great culture and great players and all those things, but making sure that you have something that people are super excited to be a part of. That's coming up next. It is Travis and Kirk live from Rams training camp at UCI on 710 ESPN.
Hi, this is Sean
We are indeed live from Rams training camp, driven by your Southern California Hyundai dealers. Get the Hyundai you've always wanted. It's your journey. Own it. All right, very excited to talk to our next guest, who is the defensive coordinator for the Los Angeles Rams, Raheem Morris. Coach, thanks for coming by. Appreciate it.
No problem, Troy. How you doing, man?
We are fantastic. So we talk so much about, acclimating new players and acclimating the new quarterback and all this. What about for you? What about acclimating to a brand new team this season?
It's pretty easy to acclimate with this environment. You're talking about a beautiful place to come practice, a high-class organization that sets it up with a really high-class facilities for us as far as where we work at, where we live at, where we go about our business at, where we get in the meeting rooms, how we come across to this field. Got to be tops in the league as far as I'm concerned, as far as when you practice. And then have an ability to come over and talk to a legend of Kirk Morris.
Let's not get crazy. Let's not tell lies on the radio, Coach. Come on, man.
This has to be one of the highlights and detailed days of my day.
Oh, man. First of all, your first time, extendedly in California, though. So when you get the call to come to California, what did you think of California now being here? What is it now, almost, 5-6 months? How are you finally settling in?
The first thing was easy, and it was easy not just because of California. It was easy because of Sean McVay.
Yeah.
You're talking about a guy that I have a very close friendship with, a very close respect for his game, his knowledge of the game, and what he brings to the game, his competitive greatness.
Yeah.
And then getting up to California and recognizing that this weather was outstanding.
It's not bad.
And then recognizing the environment of the people and how you move and watching NBA basketball games at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
It's amazing, right?
It is amazing. So having the ability to do all those things to come out here on the West Coast, I finally understand what the hype is about.
I think people forget that you were Sean McVay before Sean McVay. You were one of the youngest head coaches in the NFL, I believe, at age 32. And you think about what was put on you at such a young age of being the leader of an organization, and then to watch Sean do it as well. What do you guys talk about when you think about the positions that you guys were in?
The best part about that dynamic is when I was Sean McVay, before Sean McVay, I only made it 3 years. We had a good season. We were able to win 10 games there in Tampa. Yeah. We weren't able to maintain the greatness that he's been able to do out here because of the people. The people here have really done a great job of supporting him, along with his fan base, along with his team. And it doesn't hurt that he has some really great players. Right. Our extensive conversations before this was even thought of, him being a head coach, when he was a tight end coach at your Washington football team. Yeah. And then, obviously growing fast, becoming the offensive coordinator and being able to do what he's doing on offense. Then when he came here, it's no shock that our conversations that we had well before that, talking about being 32, some of the pressures that come across your desk, that tube that they don't tell you about as a head coach, that just stuff constantly flows out of, and you got to constantly fix problems. He was well aware of and well able to attack some of those things. Connecting those guys with some of the friends and some of the people that I was able to talk to with him was definitely something that I look forward to. And it's been so from afar, watching him grow, watching him go out there and do what he's been able to do out here. Hopefully we can get out here and give him a chance to win a championship with this championship caliber football team.
Defensive coordinator for the Rams, Raheem Morris, joining us here on 710 ESPN. And, Coach, not only do you come to a new team, you come to a team that's got Aaron Donald. You hear the people over here chanting MVP as he's talking to some folks over there. You've got Jalen Ramsey, two guys that are, all pros, Pro Bowlers, Hall of Famers probably for both of them at this point, even in their careers. How do you go about using them? How do you go about making sure that they get to do what they do best?
These kind of guys are different. You've heard Sean say of Aaron Donald, he's one of one. When you talk about the guys and what they're able to do off the field, inside the classrooms, I think that's where they separate themselves. Their leadership qualities in both different ways. Aaron has more of a quiet, stern demeanor type of a leadership role, and when he goes in and he talks, everybody listens. He has the respect of the building. He has the respect of his teammates. He has respect of all these guys. And you let those guys go out there and be themselves. Their plays will come. It's all about, when you talk about coaching, a lot of times you think it's about you making these C players B players. A lot of times it's your job to make the A players continue to be A's. Yeah. And when you make the A players continue to be A's, you have special type results and special type plays when you got from Jalen today.
You mentioned Jalen, and your background as a defensive coordinator, as a defensive backs coach. When you watch Jalen, what makes him so special?
He's a combination of a bunch of different guys that you coached in the past.
Right.
You guys are well familiar with Aqib Talib brought to this team.
Absolutely.
Sure.
With the length, the skill set, the mental. He's also a combination of a guy like Rondé Barber with the unique ability to be able to move inside, to be able to create special plays because of physical style plays. When you look at that type of combination, the sky's the limit. The only guy you really can compare a guy like Jalen to would be Charles Woodson. that played in this league for a long time, was able to move to multiple positions on the back end because of his unique skill set, and the game is played from the neck up, and he can do it all, and that's what makes it so fun to be able to sit in the room with those guys every day with Kurt.
Is there anything different about a 17-game season, a 16-game season? Do you go about preparing differently, approaching it differently at all?
You know, the best part for me is I play every game one at a time anyway.
Yeah.
So whether it's 17 or whether it's 20, most of the time you want to play multiple into the 20s anyway.
Yeah.
If you're doing what you're supposed to do. I've been fortunate enough to play into those type of numbers 2 times in my career. One we walked away with a win, and one we did not. Let's go out and end of that thing and get into the 20s, and let's get a win at the end of that thing.
Jimmy Garoppolo, Russell Wilson, Kyler Murray. When you look at the NFC West, what, as a defensive coordinator, excites you about your opportunity to compete against those guys?
You know, you're talking about the best. You're talking about the best in our business. You're talking about Russell Wilson, who continues to grow and be just elite in this league. But it's not about that. You know, like if you're a competitor, you want to go against the best.
Right.
You know, you got to play these guys anyway, no matter how you cut it. So why not beat them in your division and find a way to do those things? You also got to mention their coordinators. You know, you're talking about Kyle Shanahan, the Mike McDaniels of the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah.
You're talking about a guy that we're very familiar with, just went to the Seattle Seahawks. And you're talking about a young up-and-comer in Cliff and what he's been able to do out there in Arizona within your division. And you got play callers all across the board that could do great things. It does nothing but stress you. But if we can apply our pressure and do what we're supposed to do, we'll keep them up at night as well.
You know, going through the season that we went through last year, which was so unprecedented and unique that there were either no fans in the stands or very, very few, did it affect defenses even more than offensive? Just the adrenaline and the energy that you can pull out of 50,000 and 80,000 fans?
There's no doubt we missed the fans. You know, I just changed my mic, but there's no doubt we missed the fans. You know, the fans bring a certain juice, especially the defense.
Mm-hmm.
To hear those guys go, it was a little bit unique last year. You know, when you had those empty stadiums with that practice-like feel, and you can hear the banter from back and forth across the sideline, was able to go a little bit more. We may have to pull a little bit back off of that this year.
Yeah,
you know?
Or a lot of delays on the boom mics last season.
You'll potentially, you know, see some taunting fouls.
Yeah.
You know, and they let a lot go last year when you're in the stadium by yourself.
We talked. Okay, go ahead. Finish.
No, you're good, Kirk. But it was a lot of fun. But I am ecstatic about getting these fans back into the game-like atmosphere. You know, listen to these guys at practice and be able to hear that crowd noise in the background is something that we all live for, and something. The reason we play this game, the reason we coach this game.
You know, for me, during my career, I wore the green dot and helmet.
Yes.
I remember Barrett Rue did it in that defense down
No
there
question.
in Tampa with you guys.
I tried to draft you. You wouldn't let me.
Y'all wanted Barrett Rue. We can talk about that later, though. But think about this, though. Watching Jordan Fuller wear that green dot and the helmet, just the communication now, since it's coming from the secondary more so than that second level of the defense, is that something that you guys are still going through, working through, or how you think you envision it, that play calling during the season?
You know, these guys have fortunately been used to it the last couple of years with Eric Weddle starting it, and then last year going to JJ.
Yeah.
And those guys done such a great job. And it's a unique setting when you have a D-line coach that's so in tune to what you want to do, like an Eric Henderson.
Right.
When you can call something to a secondary guy, and he may not be able to get there, and Eric Henderson has the wherewithal to be able to get his D-line and what they need, when they need it, and how they need to get it done. Those are the tools that you need. You know, just like if a linebacker had it, and sometimes the secondary coming from deep in, you needed a wherewithal secondary coach to be able to get his guys the calls in case you weren't able to with the mic in your helmet. Right. And if they didn't get it, you didn't attack your players. You attacked the guys on the sideline for getting in too late, for not being responsible to the organization and to what we needed to get done in the plan. You know, and when that thing all comes together at the end of the day, you listen to that man with the green dot. And if we're all on the same page, we're all on the right page.
Raheem Morris is the new defensive coordinator of the Los Angeles Rams. Coach, appreciate your time so much. Thank you.
Man, thank you guys for having me on, man. I look forward to seeing you again.
You got it. You know, you asked the question, Kirk, about the other quarterbacks in the NFC West. Let's talk a little bit about that and how we see these 4 teams in the division shaping up moving forward. All right, that's coming up next. We are live from UCI for Rams training camp on 710 ESPN.